Welcome to Ray All Good Stuff, the channel where we explore the most interesting and surprising questions in life with a touch of humor and drama. Today, in our new What If series, we are going to answer one of the most intriguing and relevant questions in today's world. What would happen if the oil ran out? Imagine a world without oil, without fossil fuels to keep our economy, our houses and our cars running. It's a worrying scenario, but it can also be exciting. How would we adapt to this new reality? What would be the consequences for the environment and our way of life? What new technologies would emerge to replace oil? We at Ray All Good Staff are going to explore all of these questions and more. Let's talk to experts in energy, economics and technology to get the most detailed and accurate answers. But we're also going to have a fun and friendly approach so you can enjoy the whole process. So get ready for an exciting ride as we explore what could happen if the oil ran out. Stay tuned for our next videos in the What If series. What would happen if all the oil in the world ran out from one day to the next? Have you ever thought about the consequences that this could bring? As we all know, oil is the fuel that powers most of the world's vehicles, from cars to boats and planes. If it were to run out, the transportation industry would undergo enormous changes. First, the price of alternative fuels, such as natural gas or hydrogen, would rise dramatically. As the demand for these fuels increases, so will their price, making most people unable to afford them. Also, alternatives to oil are not as efficient as fossil fuel, meaning vehicles would have less power and be less efficient. This would also affect the speed and cargo capacity of vehicles, which in turn would affect the global economy. Imagine the impact on deliveries, international trade, tourism, and the daily mobility of millions of people. Second, the aviation industry would suffer greatly. Most planes use kerosene, a type of fuel derived from petroleum, and if it ran out, most planes would not be able to operate. The aviation industry is crucial to the global economy and international trade, and without it, the global economy would come to a complete standstill. But what about electric vehicles? It is true that these vehicles do not use oil, but most electricity is generated from fossil fuels such as coal or natural gas. If oil ran out, most fossil fuels would also run out, meaning electricity would become more expensive and less accessible. Furthermore, the infrastructure necessary to support the growing demand for electric vehicles is not yet available worldwide. Oil is one of the most valuable resources in the world, and there are many countries that depend on it to keep their economies running. Countries like Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Canada, Venezuela, Mexico, and many others are among the world's top oil producers. If oil ran out overnight, these countries would be severely affected. Most of them rely heavily on oil exports to generate income and keep their economies running. Without revenue from the sale of oil, they would face a major economic challenge. Not only that, but rising oil prices would also have a significant impact on the world economy. Many economic sectors depend directly or indirectly on oil, from the transportation industry to the manufacture of plastics and chemicals. In a world without oil, energy would be one of the biggest concerns. Today, oil is the main source of energy in the world, so without it, we would have to look for alternatives. The options are limited, but there are some alternatives: solar power, wind power, hydropower, geothermal power, and nuclear power. These renewable energy sources are not new, but they have not yet been adopted on a large scale in many countries. However, switching to these renewable energy sources would not be easy. To begin with, we would have to make large investments in infrastructure, technology, and training. Also, These renewable energy sources are not as efficient as oil, which means that we would have to consume more energy to do the same things we do today. The transition to these renewable energy sources could generate tensions in the international arena. Countries with larger oil reserves could be tempted to hold on to their remaining oil, which could lead to conflicts and geopolitical tensions. Furthermore, countries that are heavily dependent on oil could find themselves in a difficult position if they do not have access to the renewable energy sources necessary to meet their energy needs. Although it is seen that there is a rather chaotic scenario, there are also good things about this. I'm sure many of you have heard about the importance of finding alternatives to oil to reduce climate change and protect our planet. But what would the situation really look like if all the oil ran out? The main reason why the disappearance of oil could be good for the environment is because this resource is one of the biggest contributors to climate change. When oil is burned to generate power, large amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere. These gases trap heat from the sun on Earth, causing global temperatures to rise and other negative effects such as the rise in sea level, the melting of glaciers, the acidification of the oceans, among others. In conclusion, the thought of running out of oil is terrifying, as it is an essential resource for our current way of life. The lack of oil would have serious consequences for the economy, industry, transport, and energy, and could also generate tensions at the international level. However, it must also be taken into account that the absence of oil could be a boost for the transition towards cleaner and renewable energy sources. Instead of relying on oil and the countries that supply it, we could develop our own clean, renewable energy technology, allowing us to be more independent and reduce our carbon footprint on the environment. In addition, decreased use of oil could lead to a reduction in air and water pollution, and could also slow down climate change. Of course, a transition to cleaner energy sources would not be easy and would require significant time and resources. But if we can overcome the challenges and move toward a more sustainable future, we could build a world where the environment is healthier, economies are more stable, and countries are more independent. In short, while the thought of running out of oil is unsettling, it could also be a catalyst for positive change in the world. If oil were to disappear, this would mean that there would be no oil-related carbon dioxide emissions. This could be a big step towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions and thus towards mitigating climate change. We would also depend on 100% clean and renewable energy. Although it would take time to implement such technologies worldwide, it is not impossible. This would not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but could also create new economic and employment opportunities in the renewable energy sector. Investment in clean technologies could help boost the economy while reducing dependence on oil. Of course, as with any major change in the world economy, the end of oil could also have major geopolitical implications. Countries that currently depend on oil for their economies could be adversely affected, and international political and economic tensions could arise. However, if appropriate measures are taken, such as investment in clean technologies and international cooperation to tackle the problem of climate change, it is possible to reduce tensions and create a more sustainable future for all. And that you have learned something new about the world around us. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. We would love to know your opinion. Remember to subscribe to the channel to be aware of our next posts and not miss any episode of What If. Until next time.